I'm going to talk about the universes of virtual reality and the suffering within this reality. Immediately what comes to mind is Jesus and his teachings. And that was core to his teachings and ministry, was regarding suffering and taking care of the poor, the elderly, the very young, and the strongest warning I can recall from Jesus was taking care of children. And if you harm children, it would be better for you to put a millstone around your neck and cast yourself into the sea. So that was very central to Jesus' teachings, was relieving suffering, reducing suffering. And if you look at the statistics for the United States, it's like 30-40% of all children are hungry. Either go to bed hungry or food insecurity in some form. And 50% of Americans are at or below the poverty line as a result of all the increasing income inequality. So there is suffering all around us. You don't even have to go to Africa or Asia or somewhere. It's here right now. With Buddha, I've read some who have been a lot, studied his teachings, that was the core of his teaching, was to reduce suffering, both humans and animals. And that's really all that we could do. And that was the most important thing to do. And then there's suffering that's a result of just randomness. There is a randomness, if it's the universe is a virtual reality, then it's a probabilistic reality. And things just happen. Bad things happen to people. And of course, Christian writers, wrote over the years books why bad things happen to good people. Well, there's a randomness. I mean, you can try to build in a teaching to it, and it's supposed to make you stronger spiritually or something, but it is a probabilistic universe, so good things will happen to you unexpectedly, and bad things as well. Has nothing to do with morals or ethics. I always remember this article. This therapist was talking about dealing with people that suffered with depression, anxiety, and he put it in terms of we have these filters that filter all this, basically this suffering out and misfortune of others, and we're able to go on our merry way happy with our lives and able to filter and ignore all this around us. And the problem with some people that have depression or anxiety or whatever is their filter's broken. They can't filter that out anymore, and they see it and they can't shake it off, And that's one way to look at it, is we do filter out a lot and of suffering, both humans and animals. And I've been that way, and I know others, in different times of life, I just couldn't hear it. I didn't want to hear about, some children suffering or some animals. It just was more than I could bear, And a lot of people, I work with rescue dogs or something, they just don't want to hear about it. It upsets them too much. And it's the same with human suffering. We just don't want to hear about it. The most dangerous thing in beliefs, and I've talked about beliefs before, that they're crippling and they skew your view of reality, your perception of reality. The most dangerous thing I've seen, and I saw it first in Christianity, and it really was the charismatic circles that, if good things happen to you, you're on track and God's blessing you. If bad things happen to you, well, that's your fault too. There's no room for a probabilistic universe. Everything's determined. And of course you can go back to Calvinism and predestination even in Christianity, but I've seen that. And so if bad things happen to you, you know, in these circles, it was almost like a stigma. It's your fault, you know, you're doing something wrong, which is ludicrous. And it does not take into account the probabilistic nature of reality. And it's very similar to karma in Hinduism. You know, that if you're born in a certain caste, a low caste, and treated horribly, it's your fault from a prior life, you know, and it's the same with Christianity. Picked up their own belief. It's human nature to do that, apparently. It's in religions, and I think it's it's a filter. People can be mistreated, or you can ignore their plight, their suffering, and you've rationalized it successfully in Christianity or Hinduism in particular. And it may, I'm sure it's the same to some extent in Islam and Judaism, but I've just seen it firsthand in Christianity. And of course, I have studied both Christian theology and some Buddhism, and especially about karma, which again it gets out of hand on them, and they start blaming everything on karma instead of there is a probabilistic nature to reality, and some things are, you know, that as if people are justifying ignoring suffering or failing to help others and just go on their merry way. So you have you get in these ruts in belief systems about suffering and blessings and your ups and downs in your life. You have God, with the Christian God, blessing people, or holding back blessings and letting Satan hammer them for a while. And you have Allah and the Muslims, and Allah is capricious God. And you have Yahweh in the Old Testament, who was pretty much portrayed as a sociopath, psychopath, genocidal maniac. And then you have Hindus and the caste system, and you've brought this on yourself, up or down, good or bad, and the Buddhist and karma that try to explain everything that way. And you have, and I see that in these simulation arguments, some of them now, they're going further and further into the New Age beliefs and magical thinking. I think they're going too far now with the universe as a virtual reality. So it must be human nature. We've got to explain all this, and especially suffering, and how to ignore suffering. So it doesn't seem to matter, or you know, we don't want it to be probabilistic. We don't want a probabilistic reality where we're thrown to the fates of probability, good or bad. Humans want to explain everything. Everything has a reason, and we invoke a variety of gods, demons, past lives, all sorts of things to try to explain everything, when probably a lot of times it's inexplicable. It's just random, it's probabilistic, and it just happens, good or bad. And a lot of butterflies out today. I can't help but think of Carl Sagan said about humans are alive. We are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it is forever.